Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. I became a father. Hello. A few days ago, my wife gave birth to a small baby girl. I'm looking for advice on how to be good dad. I don't know how many dads are there using this subreddit, but wish me luck anyways. End of story. Next story. The real physician's battle with COVID-19 not reported by the media. I am a physician fighting on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. I am an internal medicine trained physician. For the past 4.5 years I have been providing care solely to nursing home residents in several nursing home facilities across the state of Connecticut. Most of the patients that I care for are immunocompromised and either have dementia or psychiatric illness. Nursing homes have been the epicenter of the pandemic in this state. As of yesterday, we have lost over 5,000 nursing home residents and staff. We were blamed for poor infection control and poor care and for the multitude of deaths in our facilities. What the public does not know is the truth. Not what the media tells you, but the actual trust from the mouth of a seasoned physician that has borne witness to it all. What I have seen in these past 9 months, my eyes can never unsee. In the beginning of this pandemic, I witnessed several facilities trying to cover up their outbreaks. When this all started, COVID swabs were not even available to our patients, and when they were, some administrative staff were asking us to discard swabs and not send them to the labs. When we were able to test, it was taking up to 10 days to get a result. Not to mention the fact that we did not have proper gear to protect ourselves or our patients. In an 8-week span, I lost over 120 patients across the state. It was devastating and not something I ever imagined I would experience in my career or in my lifetime. Patients were sick and dying in our facilities. They were unable to be united with family, and many were scared because they did not recognize us in our masks and shields. During the height of the pandemic, our patients were denied services including radiology exams, routine laboratory services, and routine medical follow-ups. They were even denied beds in our hospitals and were sent to die in COVID tents. With no approved treatment available at the time, we as clinicians had to have a tough discussions with the families. In a lot of cases we decided to keep the patient comfortable and allow them die peacefully and with dignity in our homes, as they were unlikely to survive the illness. And in the midst of all this, we were receiving guidance from our federal health agency and local officials to cover our mouths, to protect ourselves with scarves and bandanas. Yet we went to work each day, tired and weary, to provide the best care for our patients, only to have the media and these government agencies criticize us for the care that we were giving. It was and is disheartening. I still lose sleep over this most nights. As numbers are on the rise again, we are starting to see the same patterns. Guidance is not strong and changes sometimes on an hour-to-hour basis. As staff get ill and can no longer care for our patients, our facilities are forced to close. Lab companies are again refusing to come and draw their blood work, and transportation companies are again refusing to transport them to necessary appointments to keep them alive, including dialysis. Hospitals are being dishonest and are sending known COVID-positive patients back to these facilities without informing us and causing a recurrence of outbreaks in our facilities. And yet complaints are fallen on deaf ears. As healthcare providers, we are angry and we are tired. Yet we continue to fight for our patients. But in the end, it is the patients who lose. First, they lost their independence. Then they were denied the ability to see their families. Then they were denied admission to our hospitals. And now they are being denied the routine medical care that is needed to keep them alive. Some have paid the ultimate price with their lives, and yet here we are stuck in the same spot that we were back in March and April. Some think we have come so far. But the reality is, sadly, nothing has changed. Sincerely, Laura C. Brennis, MD. End of story. Next story. I killed a rapist who was about to assault a woman. I have a mild Asperger's complex. It's been there since the age of 5. I've always struggled with crippling shyness. It wasn't until my late 20s that shyness turned to loneliness. I live in a motel room with cash I make from a side job at a bakery. I hate my life. I think it was at age 27 when I realized I genuinely wanted to die. It was never a complaining thing. I think that whining and complaining about your problems makes them less real. It was all on the inside. And it was a plan. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a superhero. All I ever wanted to do was help people. But you can never look too inviting walking around the streets of Miami at night. I'm not a very attractive person. I always look threatening. The way my face is composed. My eyes are stern and locked. And my jaw sticks out a little too forward. I look like a meathead bodyguard without the muscle. I always knew that if I saw someone getting mugged, I would intervene. I had way too little self-worry to care about my well-being. I walked those streets for 3 years. The worst thing I ever saw was a hobo junkie trying to sell me a heroin needle. I didn't take it. I could never kill myself manually. I wasn't afraid. It's just that, in my head, I couldn't go out like that. That was cowardly. And it was so overdone. You hear on the news all the time about the depressed businessman divorcee with the overflowing debt who cut his wrists in the hotel room. That wasn't me. That wasn't my style. I wanted to die saving a life. Couple nights ago, I was walking down by the pier and heard some scuffle from an alleyway. I walked over and saw a man pinning a woman against the wall. She was drunk. He was not. The woman was kind of putting up a fight. But her drunkenness left her with no energy. She was practically flailing her arms around. And he would slap them away. The woman reminded me of my mother. Pretty. Somewhat Italian. Really wide brown eyes. So, I guess for that reason, I felt an immediate connection with her. It was weird, given the situation, that I would take the time to form an emotional connection. But I'm pretty fucked up. The man went from toying with her almost to slamming her head back against the wall. She groaned, then dropped. That's when he went to undo the buttons on her dress. The adrenaline made me move. I walked over to intervene. But he was already throwing punches. I was coughing up blood by the 7th. I fell over by the trash can. Through my faded vision, I saw him pick up the girl and start walking away. I was always a quick thinker. I took off my shoe and started to undo the laces. Once I held the string in my hand, I walked over to the man, threw the string over the back of his head, and yanked toward me. The string caught his neck, and he began to choke. For some reason, he kept trying to walk forward, like I hadn't just begun to murder him. He caught on after the first 4 seconds. He slowly let the girl tumble to the ground, then started to tug at the string. The noises that came from him was the part was messed me up the most. It was like a pig dry heaving. Or being drowned. It was like a fucked up version of David and Goliath. In the movies, it takes about 10 seconds to choke someone out. In real life, it takes about 2 minutes. I learned that night. In my head, The scenario in which I died would always go like this. The bad guy would be a mugger with a blade. He would have a lady or someone in his grasp. I would sweet talk while moving forward under his subconscious. Then I would lunge. He'd drop the lady and stick me in the gut. But not before I forced the knife into the neck. Then we'd bleed out together. I would know the lady was safe. And I'd die peacefully. The way it ended up going. I was still alive. The lady was unconscious at this point. I'm pretty sure he roofied her drink. My stomach and lungs hurt like a motherfucker from the punches. But I had to tend to her. I stood and picked her up in my arms. She was really light. Maybe 115. The walk to the police station wasn't very far. Nor difficult. I took her inside. They made me undergo a really long process. Took a few weeks to get everything settled. But I was happy to do it. The girl thanked me after. Then we parted ways. I never saw her again. But I hope she's very happy. I don't feel like ending my life anymore. Maybe it's because I served a purpose that night. Or maybe it's because I couldn't forgive myself if it happened to a future girl. All I know is that I'll be there when it does to do the same thing over again. I'd like to think I did the right thing. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.